Hey there, all you true crime fans. I'm Amanda,
And hey, I'm still Corey.
and welcome back to Colorado Crime. You guys know the drill. We're just two best friends who want to chat about all things true crime. This week's case is another one from our home state of Colorado. So, without any further ado, let's jump into this week's joke.
Okay, I hope everyone's sitting down for this one. It's hilarious. So, this joke was sent in to us by my old coworker Annie, who has the same name as my sister Annie. And my sister Annie was also my old coworker, but these are two different people.
They are two different people. That's not confusing.
No, it's not at all. Thanks, Annie, for sending this great joke. So, are you ready?
Yeah.
Do they allow loud laughing in Hawaii or just aloha?
Oh, God, aloha. I like that one, actually. I love Hawaii.
It's funny, huh?
I wish I was in Hawaii now.
She has a lot of crazy jokes too.
Ah,
We
then
used to
keep 'em
annoy
coming.
her, and I used to annoy Megan with our jokes and the fact that we called each other bro and different versions of bro, like Brosephine, Broseph,
Brosephine.
Brotato chips.
Ooh.
Yeah, we had a lot.
I like to call the dogs like, oh, do you guys want a little snackaroni and cheese? Do
That's
you
funny
want
too.
that? A little snackaroni? They're like, Chris is like, will you stop? Leave the dogs
That's what
alone.
Candace tells me about bro. Stop saying bro.
My nieces say bro, and I hate it. They call their mom bro, and I'm like, shut up. I will beat you.
Yeah, I have a bad habit. I call everyone bro.
I don't like it.
Like, hey, bro. I don't know why. Probably because at work we really did, like, our chat groups were named like the original, the OG brosifs.
The OG brogies.
Yeah, we had a lot.
I like it.
It's funny.
The high school's doing like those baby simulators, which I never got, and I'm really
That's
jealous.
terrible.
I'm so jealous. So I was there
We
yesterday.
didn't have those either.
Well, these babies are like $1,000. And
Mhm.
one of our kids for every 15 minutes came in and he had a baby, and I was like, "Can I hold your baby?" And at first he was like, "Sure." Well, then I shook the baby and he was not happy. And it took a lot of bribing, but he finally let me hold it, and he named the baby Mosk, and I named the baby everything else but Mosk. And I refused to call it Mosk.
Well, that's a terrible name.
That's what I said. I
Mhm.
named it Ralph,
Oh, Ralph's a
Howard,
good name. Howard's a good name.
Roger.
Howard.
I named it everything. I was like, "Come on, like let's get funky with it here." He was not thrilled. But I
It
did
is a
hold
good
it,
life
and it was
lesson.
cool, and I would like one. So thanks for letting me hold your fake baby. Also, I stopped a girl in the hallway and I was like, "Can I hold your fake baby?" And she was like, "Yes." And she let me hold her fake baby. I was like, "They're so cool. I wish we would have
She's
had
like,
these."
"Please hold this baby."
They had just gotten them. They turned on at noon. So I shook it
Oh.
before noon. I had
Oh,
it in the
good.
car seat, and I wanted to see if it would do anything. So I like
Mhm.
jolted it a little bit a lot.
They are pretty interesting. I
They're
don't know
so
if
cool.
it's the same as having a real baby, but, I mean,
Well, I
kudos.
shook it and nothing happened. Don't do that to a real
Mhm.
baby, guys.
No,
Never shake a
don't shake a
baby.
baby. Never shake a baby. We
No.
learn a lot of life lessons here. Don't take candy from a man in a van, and never shake a baby.
Hey, isn't that a thing? It's
Mhm.
the man in the van or man with a van. Isn't that a commercial?
Yeah, it's for good times. It's the man in the van for good
See?
times.
Well, don't take
Only
anything
'cause
from him either. That's
no,
not a good
no,
marketing ploy.
mm-mm, nope.
Oof. All right, my dudes. Well, I want to give a shout out this week. Shout out time
Shout
to
out.
to our friend, well, Chris and I's friend, Veronica and Tony. So they're friends of mine and my husband's, and they've been listening to us. So, Veronica, if you're listening, you're the best. And thank you so much for your support.
Yay! I don't know Veronica and Tony, but yay! Thank you for listening to us.
They're the best. We really like them. We've had a lot of fun with them.
Nice.
I know.
Well, I wanted just to remind everybody that we really appreciate all the questions, comments, and reviews. Those really help us. We're just so thankful that we have a lot of free time that we could, because I don't work and I moved away. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't think you guys know, I moved to Illinois.
What?
I know. I know. It sounds so
All this
clear. It sounds like I'm just
time.
right in the same room with you.
I had no idea.
I know. I'm so sorry, guys. I moved away. So it's just nice that we can carve out a couple of hours in our day and bust these out. It really takes longer than that, just so you know.
It does.
Uh,
I've
yeah,
got all these fake jobs right now. I've got
I
our
know.
podcast. I've got every
hmm
15 minutes. Plus, I
hmm
have my real job, which is keeping me busy. So,
Yeah, working. I don't have a real job, but I have this house and I have my handyman, which are turning into kind of like family because now we eat lunch together. I baked him a cake today. They're just painting away.
I love cake.
It's blueberry cake.
I just had a blueberry muffin.
Oh, nice.
I know. So I went with my boss this morning. We went and had coffee. So, hi, Jody.
Nice.
But yeah, I had a blueberry muffin. It was delicious.
So, I want to throw out a shameless plug. You guys should be sure to listen to our Serial Killer Tuesday on SKT. We try and do a month-long deep dive into different serial killer lives. Sometimes there's not a whole lot about them, so it might be 3 episodes, not 4, or short episodes, so we can get 4 in. The month of April is the Son of Sam, David Berkowitz month. So make sure you turn in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. to find out what makes some of the most prolific serial killers tick and not like a clock.
The tiki talkie.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
And
friends.
I hope some of you saw our Facebook page today. Don't push people down the stairs. It's April is stress month.
I only threaten to push Chris down the stairs like all the time. But I haven't done it yet.
I gave some tips on how to keep your life stress-free, so try that instead.
Probably don't have 2 fake jobs and a real job.
And small people.
Yeah, my small people had strep. My other
Gross.
small people, she's experiencing her first bout of heartbreak.
Oh no.
And I'm so sad for her. I know.
Did her boyfriend move away?
No, so she's not allowed to have a boyfriend. She's only 9. This boy
that's
that
right.
she
Sorry.
really likes and she's liked
Mhm.
4 years, like since preschool. He came up to her yesterday with her best friend
Mhm.
and they were like, "We like each other." And then they ran away. And she was just devastated and she had like the worst night and she was so nervous about school and poor little thing.
That's sad.
I know. So she's very sad. So everybody tell Emerson that she deserves better. That kid's scum.
Emerson, you deserve better. Boys are stupid.
Throw rocks at them.
Mhm. But not real rocks because you'll get in trouble.
Yeah, or push them down the stairs because that's bad too.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right,
Okay.
well, let's get into some true crime updates.
Okay.
So, this week for you guys, I have a story for all you Colorado people. So, Letitia Stauch's trial began on Monday this week. Letitia, she lived in Colorado Springs, is accused of stabbing her stepson, Gannon, 18 times and shooting him in the head before driving his remains across the country to dispose of him in the Florida Panhandle. So Gannon was just 11 years old when he was murdered by his stepmother in his own bedroom. He was reported missing on January 27th, 2020, while his father was deployed with the National Guard. While Letitia has yet to divulge a motive, it's believed that she felt resentful in her marriage and was tired of being treated like an unpaid babysitter. Letitia has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, claiming that she suffered a, quote, major psychotic crack as a result of childhood trauma when she killed Gannon. Letitia was arrested in South Carolina on March 2nd, 2020, and Gannon's remains were found stuffed inside of a suitcase a few weeks later. So we'll keep you updated as this one progresses. But personally, I hope that bitch rots in hell. Like the depths of the pits of hell. And I get it, like mental health problems or not, what she did to that little boy was absolutely despicable.
Yeah, she's a terrible person. While his dad's away, like,
Yeah.
for real, you knew marrying him, he had a child. Like, what
Yep.
do you think was gonna happen?
I agree. Fuck her.
Mhm. So, I know that we have talked a little bit about Brian Walsh, here and there, but here's a little bit more. So, if you all know, Brian Walsh has been accused of misleading the police in the investigation of his missing wife, Anna. Well, as of March 31st, 2023, he has now been formally charged with first-degree murder, misleading a police investigation, and improper conveyance of a human body, despite the police not being able to find her body. Ann Walsh first went missing on New Year's Day of this year and was not reported missing until January 4th. She was supposed to be traveling to DC for work. Her coworkers were actually the ones that reported her missing to the police first after she didn't show up. And then Brian, probably about an hour or so later, also reported her missing. The police allege that they have him on surveillance footage buying $450 worth of cleaning supplies, including tarps and buckets. They also allege that they found a damaged knife and traces of blood in the basement of the family's home. They also found evidence at a transfer station in Peabody, Massachusetts, including trash bags with blood, a hatchet, a hacksaw, a rug, and used cleaning supplies. His car has also been impounded and is showing signs of being cleaned. Police believe that Anna Walsh's remains were thrown into a dumpster in Abington before being shredded and incinerated. They also allege that there are internet searches on the family iPad for how long before a body starts to smell and 10 ways to dump a body, not 10 ways to lose a man, as well as research on what effect ammonia would have on a corpse. At the time of Anna's supposed murder, Brian was wearing an ankle monitor, which unfortunately was not equipped with GPS monitoring because he said he needed to take his son to school, blah, 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 as he was waiting sentencing on a fraud case over an art scam. So he just is a con man. In previous court cases, he's been described by witnesses as a sociopath and also as a very angry and physically violent person. It was also discovered that Anna may have been the victim of domestic violence as she had called the police over his alleged threats to kill her, but ended up dropping them. So that's weird, right?
That is weird.
It's weird that you search it on your iPad like a dumbass.
It's so sad to me.
Mm-hmm. I also have a little tiny funny story because it made me laugh real hard when I was reading about it. So, some inmates in Fulton County, Georgia, enjoyed a steak dinner and some soda in their cells last week. How'd that happen, you ask? How'd that happen, Corey?
How, Corey?
Well,
How?
I'll tell you. They scammed an officer to bring it in for them, which means they paid someone to bring in a full steak dinner to the jail for them to eat. They were caught on the CCTV camera inside the jail, and that's also a direct violation of Fulton County or really any jail or prison policy. So, I hope it was worth it for the employee once I figure out who it is, and that person will be disciplined according to the department policy. You just lost your job for
Over some
steak dinner.
steak.
Right.
And that you didn't even get to enjoy. Gross. Yeah. Probably made it. Or she. They.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they grilled it, it's probably pretty good. But if you got it from someplace like Applebee's, no offense to Applebee's, but it's not really a good place to buy a steak from.
No.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
It's not Texas Roadhouse.
Ooh, I do love their rolls.
Or Outback. We have Outback here.
I don't like Outback. I like Texas Roadhouse, though, and their butter. And they have, like, the best ranch dressing. Like, I'll just get a side of ranch so I could just drink that, please. That'd be great. But, like, how did he not think, or she, this deputy, not think that it was going to be recorded?
Right?
Like, of all the places to go, you were like, I'm going to bring this food to jail.
And how did you get it? Did you carry it in, like, the styrofoam container it came in? Did you put it in, like, in your lunch? Did you, because, you know, some of those jails, your shit gets searched.
He probably put it in
so
his
you
own
just had your
Tupperware
5
so
steak
people thought
dinners,
he made it.
your 5 steak dinners in your lunch bag.
I'm real hungry.
And then you're carrying it around. People are like, why are you carrying your lunch bag around? He's like, oh no, this steak.
It's bulk season. I actually
And
don't know
then
what you eat to bulk up, but I imagine it would be 5
either.
steaks.
I mean, yeah. I don't know if it's 5. I just threw out that number, but
Don't you think you'd have a tummy ache from all that steak?
especially if you hadn't ate steak in a long time.
Yeah, like red meat does not sit well with me. Oof. What an idiot.
Like
The
you've
whole
been in
thing,
jail for you've
idiots.
been in jail for like 6 or 8 months and you haven't had a steak. I hope your stomach is upset.
I know, I hope you shit for weeks. Maybe that was the problem. They were eating all that jail food and they were like,
Oh,
you
they
know
needed
what?
to poop.
We gotta poop. Please bring us the steak.
I was watching Court TV because they've been talking about Alex Murdaugh's cousin Eddie, who's in jail right now,
My
and the
Cousin
fact that
Eddie. Isn't that a movie?
yeah,
But it's his cousin Eddie.
yeah, but he talking about how he gained 55 pounds in jail, and one of the people on the panel was like, how do you gain that much in jail? And I'm like, each meal is like 2,000 to 2,500 calories. Like,
Yeah.
it's no joke.
No. No.
That's how you gain 55 pounds.
Uh-huh.
If you're eating 3 meals a day at 2,000 calories, you could be on my 600-pound life.
Right?
Which
That's
reminds me, jail food is really gross, so don't go there. And I know because when we had COVID, the jail was short staffed and all the trustees who serve the meals had COVID. So jail employees had to serve meals. And I served meal because I'm a good employee and, pat myself on the back. I had
brown
nothing
noser.
else to do. So I was like, you know what? I can help do this. And first of all, it's hot as balls in that kitchen. And
It
the
smells
food
like
is
mushy
gross.
broccoli.
Yeah, it's gross. And then we didn't even have broccoli and it still smelled like smooshy broccoli.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Every day it smelled like that. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember the cookies. Those were good.
Yeah. Yeah, those aren't too bad. Cookies, they had cake and brownies and stuff. So it's not terrible, but it's 2,000 calories.
Yeah. And I mean, you have to think like somebody's making those and it's not a guard.
Mm-mm.
It's not the kitchen staff.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the kitchen staff.
Sometimes it is, but sometimes the kitchen staff consists
Just watches over.
of inmates
Yeah.
who cook your cookies.
Uh-huh.
I don't care. Don't ruin cookies for everyone.
Okay, I won't. Cookies are delicious.
They're so good.
Okay.
Cool. Well, let's get into this week's case.
Let's do it. Do it.
So jazzy of you.
I know. I'm in a better mood today.
I love that for you.
Thank you. I love that for me too.
All right. Well, this week's case is actually one that to this day remains unsolved. A husband killed a father never to meet his son, and it could have all been a mistake. So this week we're going to talk about Sean May. Sean May began working as a chief deputy district attorney with the 17th Judicial District Attorney's Office in 2001. He earned his law degree in 1998 from the University of Virginia. He didn't initially set out to become a district attorney, though. Sean accepted a job at Cooley's Global firm directly out of college. So Cooley's is actually an international company and an elite law firm for technology and life science companies, startups and emerging growth companies, and venture capital firms. So to say this was a sweet gig would sort of be an understatement. This was a very lucrative career that could have provided Sean with many, many opportunities. But in 2001, Sean left the company when he felt called to become a prosecutor for the Adams County District Attorney's Office. There, he became a respected and successful prosecutor. In April of 2008, Sean received the Ed Towie Award for his outstanding service for the victims of crimes, and he was named Chief Trial Deputy just 2 months before his death. Sean often practiced his opening statements in front of his dog, which I think is such a cute little fact and such a special thing that people can go on to share with his son. because I talk to my dogs all the time, and I'm actually, like, pretty positive they get tired of hearing me gab on and on, but I don't care. I still talk to them.
Yeah, I talk to mine too. But this week they've been kind of on my nerves because it's been thundering and lightning and storming, and Dexter is terrified of the lightning. And this morning he woke up at I don't know what time because I don't check it because otherwise I can't go to sleep. And it was still dark out, so I'm assuming it was dark time. Shaking because he is a Chihuahua mix, so when he gets scared, he shakes like a tremoring train.
You be nice to
So
my best friend.
he's sitting between the pillows, just shaking like a crazy person. And it was dark and I was annoyed. So we tried the whole comforting thing for a hot second. And then Candace tried the whole comforting thing for a hot second. And then I was like, F this. And I got up and he stayed the night in the closet.
Oh my god.
When it became light outside, I opened up the closet door and he was like, "Hey, I hate you." And I'm like, "Well,
I hate you too.
I don't
It's
know. I
mutual.
hate you too."
Oh my god, that's funny.
Because he doesn't like the lightning. He can't
Aw.
really, he's kind of deaf, so he can't really hear the thunder anymore, but the lightning freaks him out.
He's my best
So
friend.
now, of course, he's real tired, so he's sleeping.
Those little sons of bitches.
Yeah, sons of bitches.
Luna likes to be up at 4:23 every day.
Mm,
She wants to get up, go downstairs, go potty, come inside, eat breakfast, go potty, and then she wants to come back and sleep.
yeah.
So we go back to bed till like 6, and then I'm like, okay, we have to get up, and she's like, no, it's a no for me, dog. I'm like, but I have to, and she's like, you do you, boo.
I already ate my breakfast. I'm fine.
Yeah, I don't need you anymore. I'm fine.
Yeah. So he was a
Well,
closet dog.
that's unfortunate for him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm glad you freed him.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome.
So during Sean's 7 years of service in Adams County, he volunteered for the Child Victim Unit, where he pursued justice for children who had been physically and or sexually abused. At the time of his death, he was responsible for training and supervising new prosecutors. In this role, Sean always stressed the importance of acting responsibly, including treating victims, the community, defendants, and the courts with dignity and respect.
On August 27th, 2008, Sean was driving home to his house in Northwest Denver from his office in Brighton. At the time, he was calling a defense attorney friend to warn him that the family the man defended was making threats. Sean told the attorney to be careful. Shortly after the call ended, Sean pulled into the alley behind his beautiful brick bungalow. As he was headed into his house, he was ambushed by a gunman who shot him twice, once in the back of the head and once in the lower back. Chief Deputy District Attorney Sean May, who was just 37 at the time, died a few hours later at the hospital. It was the first murder of a Colorado prosecutor that anyone could document, and just the 11th killing of its kind in the country. Denver police detectives have never publicly confirmed if they suspect that Sean's murder was related to his work as a prosecutor or whether they are any closer to identifying a suspect. Detectives began carefully examining the countless cases that Sean was involved in. This must have been a huge undertaking, as it is estimated that in his 4 years as a senior prosecutor, Sean was involved in roughly 1,000 felony cases, and in the 3 years before that, he probably handled at least 3,000 misdemeanor cases. Some of those misdemeanor cases did, however, involve domestic violence, and those cases can spark some pretty volatile emotions for all the people involved. Sean seemed like an all around cool guy. He loved the International Talk Like a Pirate Day. He also had a pedigree that opened many doors for him. He had an undergraduate degree from Stanford and a law degree from the University of Virginia. All his friends and coworkers have said that Sean was not the type of guy to get in an argument in the alley or have some escalating situation in his backyard. Sean's coworkers realized that they had been in a cocoon. They realized that they were worried about witnesses and police officers, but didn't worry about themselves. they started to take additional safety precautions. To this day, all pictures of district attorneys have been removed from the Adams County District Attorney's office website. But
Sean's murder could have been a mistake. There is a real possibility that Sean May was killed because a hit was placed on someone with the same last name. So let's think back a few cases ago. You'll remember we discussed another public figure who was murdered, Thomas Clements. He was allegedly murdered by 211 crew members. Well, Sean May's name was awfully similar to another Colorado district attorney. However, the other district attorney worked in El Paso County. So, I'm going to give you guys a quick little geography lesson. El Paso County is south of Denver. It includes Colorado Springs, Fountain, Manitou Springs, Callahan, Monument, Palmer Lake, Black Forest, Fort Carson, Peyton, Rush, and Yoder, to name a few. Guess who lived in Monument? Mr. Thomas Clements. So all of that seems like a pretty big coincidence, right? Well, it gets weirder. The district attorney from El Paso County is named Dan May. As we were researching this case, we stumbled upon a few articles from varying news sites that claimed Sean May was murdered accidentally. So, according to KDVR, El Paso County District Attorney Dan May has never prosecuted anyone for the 2013 assassination of Thomas Clements, the Colorado Department of Corrections director at the time, due to its proximity to the unsolved murder of a district attorney. So, a former El Paso County detective named Mark Poff told the news station, quote, "I think it has to do with the Sean May murder," end quote. Mark Poff retired in 2014, but he actually worked the Thomas Clements case as a detective for the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. He went on to say that DA Dan may have been afraid to go after all the culprits in the Clements case because May have been the actual target of a 2008 murder that's never been solved. In 2008, Dan May was a prosecutor in the 18th Judicial District, and he actually had a history of prosecuting 211 crew members. So the retired detective went on to explain that they had received intel from a CI, or a confidential informant, that actually confirmed the mistake and the connection.
interesting. This whole case gets weirder and weirder.
I know.
I mean, first of all, as a hitman, you should probably get your name straight so you're not just killing the wrong person.
Right?
You're not a very good hitman.
Well, I mean, they're all behind bars, so they're all doing this communication from prison, and then someone gets out, and they're like,
Did they say Sean?
Dan,
Do they mean Dan? I don't know. Let's kill them all. Stupid.
Well, they only killed one, though.
People are dumb.
I know.
So, days after Thomas Clements was murdered, an informant sent a letter to the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. According to the article, KDVR.com obtained a copy of the letter and read it in part. I overheard some gang members talking about a hit on a Colorado DA that went wrong. 211 murdered the wrong DA. See, the hit was put out on a DA May of Colorado Springs, El Paso County, but 211 ended up with the address of DA Sean May of the Adams, Denver County, and killed him at his home thinking he was the real target. Poff believes Dan May was afraid for his life, and that is the reason he never convened a grand jury to go after the other 211 gang members who might have aided in Clement's assassination. Sean May left behind his wife, Corinne, both his mom and dad, Pat and Bill, his younger brother, Matt, and his unborn son, who was born just 3 months after his murder. A special reward of up to $125,000 is available through the Metro Crime Stoppers. It's the largest reward available through the group, which collects anonymous tips about unsolved crimes.
Anyone with information can call 720-913-STOP. And that's 720-913-7867. Tips can also be submitted online through the Metro Denver Crime Stoppers website. The tip line is answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that is where we are going to end Sean May. Corey, what do you think? This one was kind of a little conspiracy theory-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Do
It
you
was a
think they'll
little
ever...
conspiracy theory-ish, and it was short because there's not a whole lot of information out, and I do think that people are terrified of 211. So I think that's probably a lot of it, that why no one's come forward and why they haven't really figured out who and what happened.
Do you think it'll ever be solved?
I think in some way they know that it was probably someone from the 211 gang, but they'll probably never find out who it was.
If you guys are interested, there are 2 pictures online of people of interest that have never been identified. So if you guys wanted to look that up and see if you recognize them,
Yeah, you could
guys
submit
can-
your tips.
Yep, pass
That's
that
what
on.
the Crime Stoppers website is for.
Yep.
Well, we do. This one was pretty short because there really isn't a lot of information, which is good because we have a boatload of questions. Do. So, this is a good one. I'm leaving them all anonymous. I don't want to out anybody's questions, and I don't want to out anybody who maybe wasn't, who didn't want their name on. If this is your question, thank you. It's really good. We really like it. We both have some pretty good answers about this one. So, I'm going to read it and then Amanda will answer and then I will answer. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. So this question is, do you have any personal connection to someone who has been killed or a murderer besides someone you've encountered in your time at jail?
So I do not, that I can think of.
I do.
Ooh.
So one of my very best friend coworkers. Okay, so a little backstory about me. My dad was a deputy sheriff for the Weld County Sheriff's Office for 35, 37 years, somewhere in there. From like 1976 until he retired in 2010, I think, 2010 or 2011. So he was there for a really, really long time. I started at the Weld County Sheriff's Office in 2004. And a little while after me, we all have badge numbers. And a little while after me, this awesome dude started on my dad's shift. His name was Sam Brownlee. My dad treated he was a commander, and that's when we had commanders and not corporals and lieutenants like it is now. And sergeants. So it was commanders and deputy threes and stuff like that. So my dad treated all his guys on his shift like they were his sons and family members. So on weekend days, they would all meet at restaurants for breakfast, and we would meet there too. So it'd be my dad's crew and all of us meeting there for breakfast. So that's where I first met Sam. And Sam was just a really cool, he was like the brother I always wanted. And we had like a really cool relationship. When he met his wife, Heather, she had a house that was probably a block away from where I was living with my sister. And we would go over there and hang out with them. We did garage sales with them. They would pick us up when we go out to eat with my parents. Like, it was a whole thing. We were like a little family. It was really amazing. He was killed in the line of duty, chasing a suspect into Fort Morgan. I'm sorry. Yeah, and he was shot with his own gun. Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
So Yeah, so he was killed, and it was horrible and traumatizing for Weld County, and it was horrible and traumatizing for his 2 kids and Heather's 2 kids, and, um, it's partly the reason my dad retired, and it was just a really shitty situation, and it went down a way that it never should have gone down, and that guy died too, but, uh, so did Sam. So it's not really fair. And then, I also worked with Tom Fallis, so we'll just leave that right there.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
That is true.
That
So,
was a whole different thing.
yeah.
Sorry about that, everyone. We'll broke it up
No,
about that.
don't be sorry. I didn't have the chance to meet Sam. He actually passed the Thanksgiving before I started.
Right.
But I mean, everything that I've heard from everybody, this isn't just like because Corey knew his family. I mean, everybody who knew him loved him. He was just one of those
Mhm.
people that you met and you just instantly connected with. And it didn't matter who you were or where you came from. He was just kind of that person.
And he was a really good deputy. He was really fair and kind, and the thing that people should aspire to be in policing.
Absolutely. Everything that Tom Fallis wasn't. Which I'll
Right?
talk about that real quick because I don't work
Okay,
there.
yeah, you can.
So I haven't been there in a long time. So I started in 2011 in August, and I decided that I was going to move up to Greeley and I was going to get my own apartment, which I'd never done. I'd never been by myself. And we used to carpool all the time. So
Yeah.
it was New Year's Eve, and like Weld County was kind of a cool place because it really became a family, and it wasn't just for like our booking department or corrections. I mean, like, it was kind of all of Weld County. Like
Mhm.
anybody who worked patrol or in the jail or in booking or any of that, like we were all kind of a family. Well, Tom Fallis had a party at his house, and a ton of our jail guys were there. And apparently, he claims that his wife had marijuana. And he freaked out and said, "We can't have this. I'm going to lose my job." And then he claims she turned the gun on herself and shot herself in the head. The plot thickens, though, when I tell you that she actually had a child who had special needs, and she was like the most involved parent, and she
Mhm.
sat on the board for the foundation, and she's
Yeah, it
the
was
parent who would never have left her child.
yeah.
And typically, when a woman kills herself, she doesn't use a gun. It's messy, and she doesn't want to be found unattractive.
Right.
So he actually was arrested, and I think
A
he did
lot later.
a lot later. And he
Mhm.
did go to trial for it, didn't he?
Yeah, and was found not
He
guilty.
was found not guilty, and
Mhm.
he doesn't live in the or he didn't. He left the state after the trial. Um, but
He
it's
had actually left the state, um,
before.
before. They actually had to bring him back here
Yeah,
for
he
the
was
trial.
extradited.
Uh-huh. Yeah, a whole effed up case, like,
It was,
for
and I
real.
had just started there, and I remember thinking like, "Holy fuck." I think I
Mhm.
got my apartment in October, and this happened in January, and I remember being like,
Yep.
"Oh my god, I don't wanna live here anymore, it's so scary."
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So those are 2 things.
Yeah,
Good times.
yeah,
And they weren't just people we encountered there. I mean, we encountered them there, but
right.
they weren't people we, like, yeah.
I My last one, I do have one, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, I grew up my dad was a detective and then a commander for Federal Heights, and there was an officer there named Frank, and he was just, like, such a cool guy, and I'd known him since I was 5,
Mhm.
and, I mean, he loved his job, and he had He has 3 kids. And every year they did this huge Christmas drive. And he was a patrol deputy. So he would go out and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Federal Heights, but it's not a very wealthy area. And a lot of it is trailer parks. And so he would interact with these people and he'd go to the schools and he would, he kind of got to know these families who needed that extra help. And he created a toy drive at Christmas. And
Oh, that's cool.
it was cool. And I think it was, what year are we in? 23. So I think it was 2021 that Federal Heights kind of went through a political shift, which if you're not in law enforcement, I'm sure this is everywhere, but so much of law enforcement is political, and it is 1000% the reason I won't go back, because it's not how good you are at your job. It's not what you know. It's who you know.
Right.
And unfortunately for Frank, he crossed the city manager, who I won't name, but look her up. She actually was investigated in Estes Park. But she fired him, and she went out of her way to just destroy him and to destroy his character. And even though none of it was true, he took it to heart. And he took his
it's hard not to.
Oh, absolutely. And he took his retirement, and him and his wife were building a new house. And unfortunately, his oldest daughter found him dead in his garage last year.
That suck.
All because of a stupid fucking witch hunt. Because one person didn't like anybody, and the chief supported her.
Yep.
Because the chief didn't want to lose his job. And that is a whole nother story. And that's what happens to good police work.
Yep.
You lose the good officers because they actually give a shit about their job. And now
to bad ones that suck.
Yep. And all they want to do is kiss somebody's ass so that they can climb the ranks.
Yep.
That's my soapbox. I'm going to get off.
Yeah. That's how I feel too. You lose a lot of good officers and deputies to shitty ones.
Yep.
And we have
shitty management.
We have a whole see something, don't say anything mentality. And when you have that, instead of one crappy officer, you now have 1,000 crappy officers, because if one doesn't say anything, nobody else is going to.
Yep. And nobody wants to lose their job.
Yep.
I mean, I could talk about that with booking.
Yep.
We had a great department
and a shitty manager.
Leader.
Yep.
And we fucking fell apart because of it.
Yep.
And ask any of us who were there during that time. All of us have PTSD from her.
Yep.
Because you have one shitty leader and she messes it up for everybody. Or he messes it up for everybody.
Yep.
And it's ridiculous. We're off our soapbox. We can move on to our next question.
So we have another one. Who is your favorite serial killer? And why do you have a favorite serial killer?
Okay, so I hate using the word favorite. It's such a yucky feeling because it's not. I don't want to say like, oh my God, they're my favorite.
I know.
But there's not a better way to say it.
There isn't a better way to say it.
But I have two that I just find fascinating.
Okay.
My first one is Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold from Columbine. They completely changed the world.
Yeah, they did.
And not in a good way.
No.
And it just baffles me how two young kids can have that much anger and hatred inside of them. And so that they're not my favorite, but the way that they went from being teenage boys to being these prolific spree killers just makes it just boggles my brain.
Yeah.
And my other one would be one that we're going to cover later. So I'm not going to talk about that one. But when we do get to that episode, I will totally tell you guys because that one's fascinating. But I'll say my other one would be Ted Bundy. Just because
Because
everybody
other
thought he
people
was,
find him so fascinating?
oh my God, everybody thought he was like so attractive, and he's awful looking, and it just, ugh. Yeah, it
For
just,
me, it's the Zodiac Killer.
ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Um I find it interesting that this person killed so many people and no one has ever figured out who they are.
Yeah, that
Ever.
one's crazy.
hmm Ever. Never. They never figured it out. He's it's unsolved. All of those murders unsolved. They know it was one guy, the Zodiac Killer. They don't know who he is. They've never figured it out. I also find I like that Jack the Ripper because that's the same kind of uh instance, but I
Yeah.
mean that was back in the 1800s and in England. But I find it fascinating that someone just went around killing, like, gutting prostitutes basically, and no one ever they never solved it. So, I found both of those cases pretty well, all those two are fascinating to me.
I agree.
Um, why do I have a favorite serial killer? Because I'm a sociopath. It's fine.
I am not, I don't think I'm a sociopath. God, I hope not. I
I'm
think
probably not really, but
I like, I really like to know how their mind works. I like how
Mhm.
they went from A to B to C, and like, I want to know what got them there.
Right. It is very interesting.
That's
Like
that's
how
why
you
I
wake up
have.
one day and you're like, "You know what? I'm gonna kill a bunch of people. That's what I'm
Yep.
gonna do today." And not
Yeah.
spree, because that's a spree killer. A serial killer is
Yes.
someone who kills people over a long period of time. A spree or mass murderer kills people, a bunch of people in a short amount of time.
I know,
There's a
but
difference.
they're my,
Spree killing is interesting too. I mean, that's why a lot of times people say don't go postal because that did happen.
it did happen.
Mhm.
Yeah, but no.
Okay.
Let's move
So
on to
here's
our
another
next
one.
one.
Ready?
Yep.
Why do ladies think that Dean Coral isn't a widely known serial killer?
Um, I think because it was the 70s,
Mhm.
and I feel like back then, like, things weren't as publicly known, and I
Right.
think that as a society, everything kinda got swept under the rug, so there was still that
Right.
illusion that, like, you can have the white picket fence and live happily ever after,
And everything
and
was safe and your kids could play
play
outside until it was
outside.
dark and do
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a lot of it, was that American dream safety net kind of feel.
Mhm. Well, yeah, and I mean you hit the nail on the head. It was the 70s.
Mhm.
There wasn't a lot of people didn't have, like, you didn't have necessarily your own phone line. Sometimes you had a party line.
Yeah.
Uh you didn't necessarily there was no cellular devices, no social media. Some people didn't even have TVs. Like, you listened to the radio. There were a lot of things that happened in the late 60s, early 70s that didn't it wasn't like it is now. So I think that's a lot of it. And the fact that, I mean, his murders were no one was finding bodies. So that's the other thing. I
Well,
mean, they
and a
didn't find bodies
man's
until he was killed.
right. And a man sleeping with another man back then
Oh,
would
was
never
even
have
worse.
made,
No.
yeah. Yeah, there was completely a different, like, thought process when it came to,
Homosexuality.
yeah, it was such a taboo thing that nobody wanted to talk about it, and that it was icky, and, "Ugh,"
Mhm,
and that those people were asking for it, and
mhm,
that is something that I've been really impressed with in the 2020s, is I feel like even in, like, the late 2000s, is we as a society have really, most of us, Tennessee, I'm looking at
mhm.
you, we've really tried to
Florida.
grow as people, yeah, and
Mhm,
it just wasn't a thing back in the 70s, and I
mm-mm.
also think that we hadn't reached the 80s and that, like, whole satanic panic thing and the drugs and
Right.
HIV, and So the news media didn't really, like,
Mm-mm.
catastrophize things back then.
No.
You know, it was like, "Oh, let's go look at this kitty clothing show." Like,
Right.
probably not a kitty clothing show, it'd probably be, but you know what I mean? Like, it was a little
Yeah.
bit more sunshine and puppies and less, like, doom and gloom.
Right. So, the sub question of that was, do you think it has anything to do with the media or lack of media? And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that too. I do think that there wasn't a huge media coverage because it was, first of all, it was teenage boys missing, and back in the 70s people ran away a lot. There was a lot
Mhm.
of hitchhiking. That and people did leave and people did run away. However, the families of these boys knew that that wasn't their son.
Mhm.
So, and the other sub question was, do you think it had anything to do with the lack of law enforcement presence or the dismissal of the disappearances as being labeled as runaways? And I do think that too. And I do think I honestly think that the fact that people were not finding bodies,
Yeah.
he had buried them well enough and gotten rid of the bodies well enough and not kept them at his home, like Jeffrey Dahmer, or,
John Wayne
people who
Gacy.
John Wayne Gacy, Ed Gein, all those people who kept bodies in their homes. um it's not as noticeable when I mean, sure, he moved a lot, but people just probably thought, oh, he moved a lot. Like,
Right. That
I
wasn't really
think
suspicious back then.
no. I think that had he not been killed and had he lived a little bit longer at the residence he was at in his final times, his father's house, I think that he would have eventually been found out um, that way. Being killed was just his downfall in more ways than one. But I think him being killed really, I think he would have gone on to kill more boys. And I think he would have probably ended up burying them closer to where he was. But when you live in an apartment, you can't really bury bodies anywhere. So
True.
that's why he buried them in a boathouse and the lake and the beach and things like that. And those were, I mean, nobody went to his boathouse.
Right.
So you're not going to find bodies there. And he was smart enough. I mean, he was a smart guy. He was smart enough to know to bury him with lime. And, those guys would have never found any of those bodies had it not been for Elmer Wayne Henley and David Brooks leading them to them.
I totally agree. And I also think that the FBI, like, their profiling unit was still
Mhm.
in its infancy then.
Mhm.
So, that became a thing in 1971. And
Mhm.
so it was so new and there were so few people working on it that, now it's own department and
Well,
any
that and the fact that the law enforcement classified almost every single one of those boys
as
missing
a
as
runaway.
runaways.
Right.
So the FBI was never involved
Right. Right.
until they found the bones.
Right. And profiling, I mean, like I said, it was in its infancy, so it wasn't a
Mhm.
thing. So they didn't know that what they were looking for. They had no idea
Mhm.
that they wouldn't have even had. I really just think
No,
like they wouldn't have even had the forethought to say, "Oh
the
God, this
tools.
could be a serial killer. This could be
Right.
something bigger." I think they were like still living in puppies and sunshine, and
Yeah, and it
oh
was
man, these
Texas.
boys just
So,
ran away.
yeah. I mean, California had seen more serial murders
Hmm.
than probably Texas had forever. So, I honestly think there wasn't the tools, there wasn't the resources, there was a lack of media, there was a lack of law enforcement being involved with anything,
Yeah.
and they were quick to move missing boys and missing girls into runaways or
Yep.
prostitution.
Oh God. Yeah.
Mhm. So, yeah, the 70s were a strange time.
They were. It was a pivotal time in law enforcement.
Mhm. Mhm. It was.
All right.
Well,
Oh,
these
sorry.
were some good questions. They were very thought provoking, and I like the little discussion at the end. I think that's really nice. So if you want to keep hearing that, please get us your questions. Um, Facebook, Instagram. You can DM us. You can slide into our DMs. You can
Send us a
email
carrier
us.
pigeon,
Send us a
whatever.
carrier pigeon. If you know where we live, you can mail us you can mail us a letter. If you're the one of the 10 people that may have our text message number. You can text message us and get your
Glory.
jokes in. We like to hear
Yeah.
your jokes too. So make sure you get those into us. We appreciate that.
All right, crime fans. Until next time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, make sure you send us your questions. If you haven't already, please subscribe so you can be notified every time we upload. If you enjoy listening to us every week, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We love doing listener shoutouts, so make sure that you leave a comment or a review for us. New episodes are released every Friday at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Please follow us on Instagram at Colorado Crime Pod or on Facebook at Colorado Crime Podcast for information on next week's episode as well as other true crime happenings. We hope that you have a beautiful day wherever you are, and as always, stay safe.
Until next time, podcast stands, have the weekend you deserve.